Welcome to the Broad St Favell Generation X podcast. Join hosts Kim Perrant and Corey Favell as they pull back the curtain on life growing up in the NHL. Each week we will host different guests from throughout the NHL world.
Don't forget to tune in. Oh wait, do we still tune in? Or is that like a Generation X thing?
Kim, we don't tune in. The kids say subscribe. The Broad St Favell Generation X podcast is powered by
Biscuit Tees and Favell Fitness,
bringing you unique comfort and style while optimizing a healthy, organic lifestyle.
Yes, we're going on a holiday. I'll bring
My pleasure. Great to finally meet you guys and happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy. And it's funny that speaking of Joe Cadillac, I believe the story goes that my mom met him at a bar, went on a date to a Flyers party, met my dad, and kind of ditched Joe for my dad. I think that's how the story goes. But yeah, so Joe.
Your mom, Carol?
Yes.
I remember your mom well.
Word has it, I don't know if it's true or not, that you might have thought my mom was hot back in the day.
Yeah, that's pretty much true, to be honest with you. That's a good one. You've done your homework. And she was and is, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, she's definitely a beautiful woman.
So, yeah, oh, man. Make sure you say hello. And is this like not a lie detector test, is it? I could have just spit that out. So that's a tough one to start off on, but what the heck?
The best part is, Ray, we're not live, Ray, so we can delete, we can cut anything out that we want.
Yes.
So, well, I think it was an appropriate answer, and I would keep that in.
You answered it perfectly.
That was a tough one off the bat. Well, that is, honestly, that's I've never heard that story either about Joe and your mom, and obviously Bernie. That is fantastic.
Is that funny?
And
so
what year
Joe,
would that have been? What year would that have been, do you think?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
see, Bernie's 50. I don't know. 53, 54 years ago.
Wow.
I don't know. But so it's because of Joe that I'm sitting here today.
And you're Kim Perrant. You're not Kim Cadillac.
No.
Well, Kim, actually, that kind of has a ring to it.
It does. Kim Cadillac.
Pretty good.
Kind of like that.
Absolutely. But maybe not get any ideas.
Yeah.
Kim, I didn't even know you were going to tell that story, Kim, because I was laughing. First off, Joe Cadillac Jr. There's a Bernie Jr., Joe Cadillac Jr. I'm jealous now that I'm not Doug Favell Jr.
No kidding.
I got the middle name.
Yeah. I got the middle name. Yeah. So I was also funny. Kim, I didn't know you were going to pull up that Joe Cadillac story, but amazing guy. The first time I met him, and it was a funny story, was my dad was, I think it was late 80s, early 90s. He was the goaltender coach in Buffalo with the Sabres. And that the Flyers they've always been my favorite team. So there was Dave Brown, Rick Tocchet, Mark Howe, Derek Smith, Craig Berube. It was that era. And so Sunday nights, I would always go over to the home games in Buffalo, and Philly was playing. So I begged my dad to go over to the game. He's like, yeah, no problem. And after the game, I just wanted to meet Rick Tocchet. And so Joe Cadillac happened to be at the game, and he came out, and we were down kind of in a cage at the odd there. And Joe Cadillac came out, and he's like, oh my God, yeah, you want to meet Rick Tocchet? Come on in the room. So I was like, wow, this is awesome. So Joe drags me into the room. Well, every guy is in the shower. Like, nobody has clothes on. Everyone's in there. And he's running around introducing me to Dave Brown and Rick Tocchet. I'm like, this is awesome, but this is awkward. but that was Joe, and just an amazing guy. And like 3-4 weeks later, this is before cell phones and cameras and stuff. He actually sent Polaroid photos of me with Ronnie Hextall and
Did
Rick
he have clothes on?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
No, Ron Hextall did not. Rick Tocchet was dressed, yeah, but it was kind of funny. But that's my memory of Joe Cadillac.
That's a good memory.
Well, if you saw that pride, now that he's the chairman of the Penguins, actually, could use that against him.
Yeah.
You still have that photograph, so.
That's right.
That was like Joe, though. Title at the time, but Flyers, but everybody now has team service. He was really the jack of all trades. I think all was a PR director, but he was a team services guy. And when I was a manager in the league and assistant manager, whenever you're team services guy, you have to know who, as a coach or assistant coach, you have to know who the first assistant coach was in the NHL history, which was Mike Nicolak. But the history also, basically you got to know who Joe Cadillac is. Who? Joe Cadillac. The guy from Philly. And Joe Cadillac, he still sends me probably once a week pictures and stuff like that, which I had never even seen before, and it's fantastic. And he was my dad's second or third year in Philly. And Corey, your dad might have been there in 72, 73 maybe. And I don't know, they're flying Piedmont Airlines or Allegheny or whatever they're flying, and they had picked someone up in a trade, and they're getting off the plane, and I guess the way things were being run, he was like, wow, Joe, this is amazing. I can't believe how team travels. And Joe, of course, just looked at him and said, kid, there's first class and then there's flyer class. And that was the way it was. It was probably Snyder, right? The way things were run, and that was good. And
yep, and that's Joe. Like you said, everything was,
Oh, everything's perfect. And what a wonderful person. And Joe and his wife. And geez, what a great ambassador for the Flyers. And boy, he's got some stories, I'm sure. Maybe you should have him on.
Oh, for sure. And he always had a camera. Like, there's always pictures of everything. He's just.
Well, if you ever have Joe on, I'm sure you will, make sure, give him the first question. You got to say, tell us about date night.
Yes. You better believe it.
Yes. That'd be pretty interesting. So there's a guest already. But no, that's wonderful. And you guys were growing up around that. And, anyway, it's nice to reconnect, and it's always nice, when I was back in Philly, and Sarah Hart, and always when Gene passed away, Sarah Hart and Lauren took such great care of my mom, and would take her to the games and all that stuff, and it's always nice. I mean, I saw a picture. I think I was 9 years old and waiting for Santa Claus at the Christmas party, and I had a runny nose, and I don't know, some ugly looking vest my mom put on me. I was 9. I didn't know, and there were all the kids. Well, anyway, and Lauren was kind of right next to me, but I think I cut her off because there was a good present that Santa had. I cut Lauren off, and that was that. So, but a lot of good stuff there, though.
They were the best Christmas parties. They were so fun, and the real Santa was there. They were great. But Sarah Hart's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And that's nice. People take care of each other there, and it's all. And your dad, what was the last team he played for? Was it like NHL? Was it Colorado?
Colorado, yeah. And it was funny because
Colorado.
we were living in Colorado, and he ended up retiring out there. But his last year, he got sent to the minors, which was actually the Philadelphia Firebirds. So we had built a house. We were living out in Colorado, and he got sent to the minors. So he was back in Philadelphia with the Firebird. We were out living in Colorado. So his last year he was actually back in Philly.
And I remember from this, who was on that team before this is, would that be like 70? What year was that? 79 or
79, 80.
Yeah. Was on that team, and who knew, but he only played 6-7 games. I remember it was Mike Ruzioni.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Look it up. Ruzioni. Played 6 games there. Still eligible to play in the Olympics, and obviously that was probably a good thing for the USA. So it was funny, but that was the Firebirds. And what was Kim? The Blazers? Your dad played for the Blazers, right? The 1 year.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Your dad played for the Blazers the 1 year?
He did, and I am terrible. Corey might know the dates better than me. I am so bad with my dad's early career and the dates. When was that, Corey?
It was 72, 73. Yeah. So
that was, I remember that. Yeah, 72, 73. And that, Corey, I think that was your dad's last year with the Flyers, right?
Correct, yeah.
When they beat Minnesota and all that stuff. And then that was the Firebirds. Wow. Yeah, I still remember I was playing youth hockey in Voorhees at the old what was it called the
Coliseum. Yeah.
Coliseum. I think with your brother Kim, Chuck, I used to play hockey with them. I think with the Vikings or something like that. And I think your dad would have been playing for the Blazers that year. And I still remember him leaving the Coliseum, and he wasn't with the Flyers yet, obviously, but he was with the Blazers. I think he had a broken foot though. I still remember he had the crutches on, a broken foot, and
wow.
Maybe he just didn't want to play for the Blazers anymore. But the old Coliseum in Voorhees. But
yeah.
No, that's something. That's amazing how you guys kind of have your lives are kind of linear, and how your parents are your dad's kind of your fathers came up in kind of parallel paths for them. But it's nice to see you guys doing this.
Yeah, and they played for 6 years before pro, Corey, together.
Well, they played. I think they were 4 years in Philly together, I believe, and then they won a Memorial Cup with the Niagara Falls Flyers. So they played Major Junior together too. So, which was rare back then. It was two goalies that stuck together, but they were owned by Boston. And I think your dad, Kim, was the goalie who could cut the Boston lineup, because I think they had Eddie Johnstone and Jerry Cheevers up there. And so that's what my dad got really lucky in the expansion draft when Philly took my dad and your dad. So, but yeah, that year, 72, 73, that's why I was looking back. We were actually, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, so our dads,
No,
but they did.
Go ahead, Corey. Yep, no problem.
So yeah, that's what. So that's when Kim and I started piecing stuff together. It was like, man, we kind of just missed each other, but yeah, I feel bad because my dad got traded and you guys won the cup, so I have to see him every year. But look at those hats, or Stanley Cup Flyers, 74, 75, and so. But
just missed
anyway.
it. He just missed it.
Sorry about that. But hey, Kim, are you going to apologize, or am I, on behalf of the Flyers? Sorry about that, Corey.
Well, yeah, I think we might need it from both of us. Sorry, Corey.
Right, sorry about that. No, it was funny because I remember the first game. I was telling Kim the first game of 73-74 exhibition game. They played the Rangers at home, and I don't know, Keith. I don't know, Bertie Perron. I didn't know anything about Bertie Perron except he was playing where he was the previous thing, and he shows up. I think it's my dad plays him, and I don't know why, but they lost, I think 8-0, 8-1, and my dad let Bertie in for all 8 goals. First game he ever played that for coming back against Philly, and I think they were saying we want Favell back, but anyway, but it's quite the thing, and it was really the year before, the 72-73, where they really kind of took off, and obviously Doug Favell obviously in goal, and kind of took off there, and the next year won the cup. And looking back, I mean, as I was saying earlier, that I used to, when I was a kid, run the locker room, and I would always try on your dad's mask and both you guys, and because of course with Doug Favell is the first one I think to even have a colored mask, and the orange one, and then the Starburst one, and but it was you remember those things, and everybody had, as my dad always says, everybody when they won in 74 and 75, but everybody, at least when he was at previous the 71, 72, 72, 73, all those players who weren't there for the cup obviously helped move that along, the 2 prior years that contributed to it. So they became a good team, and Doug Favell was a big part of that, and obviously Bernie, and after that, and that was pretty good. So who was the backup? Who was do you remember, Corey, who your dad's backup was in 72-73? Who the other goalie was?
Was it Bruce Gamble?
There you go. It was Bruce Gamble.
It was Bruce Gamble. And then he had the heart attack. I remember he had the heart attack, and they used to joke because, back in those days, it's, in between periods, guys were hiding in the stalls having smokes, and, Gamble's in the stall having, I guess he had a heart attack in like the second period, flew back with the team. Flew back.
That is absolutely.
Yeah.
I was listening to that game. I was listening to that game on the radio. I mean, to stay up that late, right, to listen on the radio. I mean, but he did. You're right. They were playing in Vancouver, and Bruce Gamble, the second period, he stopped it. Like they won the game 3-2, and you're right, Corey. In the second period, I don't know who was the medical guy? Was it Frank Lewis? I can't remember who the medical guy was. Came running out because he was down, but saved the game. He was fine. And went to the third period, ended up standing on his head. I think he had 38 saves or something. He got first star. And you're right, we're flying. Realized he had a heart attack.
So he played the whole game?
And it wasn't a groin pull. It wasn't anything.
Wow.
No, he had a heart attack. Honestly, that's old Mets player hockey, I guess. Huh? Stay in and shake it off. I mean, and
that's a hockey player.
Win the game. Well, that is like, I remember that. I was like, Jesus. I'm like, heart attack. Wow.
Yeah, no, that's
wow.
Really something. You're exactly right. And then I think Bobby Taylor ended up coming at whatever point that was, maybe the next year with Bobby.
I was going to ask, when did Bobby come in? Yeah.
I think it might have been the next year. May have been the 70-74. Yeah, your first two. But of course, Bobby Taylor, what a wonderful person, what a great guy.
Amazing.
And the only problem, unbelievable and the only problem was when Bernie got traded back to the Flyers. As you know, like, I think there were 78 games then, 76 or 78. And Bernie played 74 and 73 games. Like, and remember with Bobby, I mean, he played like 8 games, and he only get 8. He had credit for 8 games, but he probably played about 5 because he got pulled in a few of them, and Bernie had to go back in there. But remember, so of course Bobby Taylor was, Indian descent, and nicknamed the Chief. And then after the first year, 73, 74, or whatever his first year was, backing up Bernie. He only played like 8 games, so the players, I don't know if you remember this, but the players changes the nickname from Chief to Sitting Bull.
Well,
that's hockey.
My dad always jokes that I don't know how many games in a row it was my dad played, and he was playing great, and then your dad put Bobby Taylor in one game, and the press asked, well, why'd you put Bobby in? And he was like, that was his turn. And Mima was like,
he had played
like 20.
That's a true story. That was, I think he played like 35 straight or something like that. And the problem was, and he did say, my dad did say that. But the problem was, it was an NBC game on like Saturday or Sunday with, Ted Lindsay and all that stuff. And the big match at the Bruins and Bernie Perron and against, Phillips and all that stuff. And the NBC wasn't too happy. There was no Bernie. And that's exactly what my dad said before. That was his turn. I don't know. So that was something. They had some great things.
So how old were you during when they won the cup? And so you have good memories, I'm sure.
For sure. I was, when we went to Philadelphia, I was 9 years old, I think. So I was there. My dad was there 7 years. So I was 9 to 16.
Okay.
So within the one, I think I was 12 and 13 years old. And when they won in 74, 75. So I remember a ton. And I remember, after they beat Boston that game, May 1974, it was an afternoon game, and we didn't go and what was coming up next was the Philadelphia Wings, and I'm not sure if Corey, your dad was playing that then.
He was.
I used to watch him. Yeah, I used to watch him play. I mean, it's incredible. Rick Dudley, the longtime coach and all that. So Rick Dudley also played, and obviously your father, and there was the old Philadelphia Wings played after the Flyers beat the Bruins, and I was like 12 years old, and so we ended up watching the lacrosse game, and I mean, I don't know, like, where the hell are our parents? I mean, the heck.
Well, and that's funny too, Ray, because I was talking about, I feel bad that my dad missed out on that year, those years with the Cup, but the year you guys won the Cup, he was playing right after with the Wings lacrosse, so he was in Philly at the time.
Did you say he would fly back and forth for the games? Corey, he would fly in and out. Yeah.
Harold Ballard finally put an end to it. He was flying back and forth, and he used to drive in with Boria Salming, and
holy crap!
They were driving into the game, and I guess my dad asked Boria, "Who we playing tonight?" Because my dad had just flown in from playing the afternoon lacrosse, and then so Ballard got wind of it and said, "Yeah, enough of that." So,
Jesus, was he number 33?
He was 33. Yeah, the Wings.
There you go.
Yeah.
See?
So, and Ray, I wanted to tell you this too, Ray. When my dad got traded back, if you remember, when Jerry Meehan scored that goal with about 12 seconds left to put the Flyers out of the playoffs.
Corey, I don't remember at all, but it was 4 seconds left.
Yeah. Yeah. So it went full circle that we joked that Jerry Meehan was the guy who hired my dad to be the goaltender coach in Buffalo. So I think the joke was he felt bad for scoring on him, so he gave him a job back in '89.
Oh, absolutely. That's right. Jerry, he was a longtime GM there too. But yeah, that was 4 seconds left. Yep. Yeah, I was 9 years old, and I honestly, Corey, this is a true story.
Yeah.
That was my dad's first year, 71-72, and they beat him 1 point to make the playoffs. And it was 2-2, and then Jerry scores 4 seconds left, and only because of a tie, and it was the last game of the season. And with 4 seconds, lose 3-2, and I was crying, and my mom was watching the game. We rented Vic Stasiak's house in Bala Cynwyd, honestly, and my mom was drinking coffee, and when Jerry Meehan scored, she screamed, and her coffee went flying against the wall, and I'm crying. And I say this, I've told the story a few times, and I remember, Chuck Fletcher, obviously the current GM of the Flyers now. Chuck and I were, when I was a GM in Pittsburgh, he was assistant GM for me for 3 years, and in New Jersey, we worked together as well. And I was telling the story. You've got with 4 seconds left, and I think it was so Jerry, he hired how many years later was to be the goalie coach of Buffalo?
88, 89, I think.
80, and he was still there. And how long did he do that? Was he the goalie coach?
I think till 1992. So, which was funny because he was.
Wow.
So he was there with Rick Dudley too. Rick Dudley was coaching.
Oh, that's great guy. And then, so it was. I was 9 years old. So the next day, I was devastated. I had to walk to school, and I was telling Chuck Fletcher this, and hey, Chuck, my welcome to Philadelphia moment, man. I'll never forget it. And it's kind of funny, Corey, that you're because I'm walking, I'm basically still crying, and I'm 9 years old, and next thing you know, I hear some kids before school yell, "Hey, Shero, your old man at Favell blew it."
Oh.
What? I'll never forget it. Well, there you go. It wasn't just my dad or Corey, so there you go. That was the welcome to Philadelphia moment. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, right.
But it got better. Yeah, but that's awesome that the next year that obviously they had a really good season and beat Minnesota in the playoffs, and they lost to Montreal, but hell of a run with obviously with Doug Favell and the crew. But yeah, kind of a tough sports crowd.
How did your dad react when with that big loss? How did he handle this?
Well, he handled it by. I think he handled it by. Because Keith Allen was telling me the story, but that's when I think maybe the next week or two that's when he sat down for a year-end review with Ed Snyder and Keith about the team, and that's when he said, "I need help." They're like, "What?" And I want to hire an assistant coach. And Ed Snyder and Keith told me the story that it was my dad's first year there. They didn't make the playoffs. They had 1 point and they missed it by and my dad, after they had a 2-hour meeting, he looked at Allen and said, "Let me ask you a question. Should we fire him? I bring him back, fire him right now, or fire him tomorrow? What should we do? This guy's so stupid. He needs help." That's how he reacted.
Because there wasn't assistant coaches then, right?
Coach. So Mike Nicolak came in, gets hired. No, he was the first one. Mike Nicolak was the first one, and obviously that really worked out. And think about it, and then they won the Stanley Cup with Mike, and that was it worked out that way. So that's probably how we handled it. Is probably when they flew back from Buffalo. I'm not sure what the hell I hit in the basement. Thank God. That was a tough one.
Yeah.
I'm 9 years old. We're going back to the minors. We're going back to Omaha or something. Sorry. Thank God they gave an opportunity they stuck with him, and it obviously worked out, but oh boy, it wasn't looking too good. So, and luckily I wasn't at that same school next year. We moved to Cherry Hill the next year, so I didn't have to go to that same school in Bala Cynwyd and get mocked. I should have gone back the next year when they won, I guess, right?
Yeah, really.
They tried to track that kid down. Where's that kid? Jesus, what a bully. Getting bullied back then.
Well, like, yeah, my dad said, of course, your dad was just such an innovative coach. Like, it just things that weren't common back then, like being able to say, I need an assistant coach, or the training that they did, or watching film back, like things that weren't common then that your dad, brought to the guys, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was something when you look back. I mean, with video and all that stuff, and I think it might have been in 77 or 76, 77. I remember, besides Mike Nichol, then he had to his staff, and it was Terry Crisp, his first coaching opportunity, Terry Crisp and Pat Quinn. So my dad was the head coach, Pat Quinn, Terry Crisp were the assistants, and the goalie coach was Jacques Plante. So
Wow.
I think they just brought him in to pacify him. That's okay. That was quite the staff, but that's what that's what it was like back then. But in terms of, I think a lot of things, how the Flyers did things from '67, or how things evolved with Mr. Andy Fallon and Bob Boyle, the original general manager, and just the way they did things was innovative. And obviously money wasn't that big back then, but they had the latitude to do different things in the off-ice conditioning, which was not very big from a player standpoint, but they did all that stuff. It was great, and it was my dad did a lot of things like that, but had a lot of support and help. But I still remember just after they won the Cup in '74, and Bernie was Conn Smythe winner, I believe, MVP of the playoffs, and maybe he took a look at the car, but my dad had an incredible relationship with Bernie, and it was, Bernie used to swing by the house and pick up my dad for practice sometime. And I would actually, my dad would get a ride. I mean, he would. And then honestly, I remember your dad, Bernie, would take me home, drop me off sometime. I mean, okay. That was pretty cool, I guess. And ever like, I don't know I hope I wasn't a backseat driver, but at 12, 13, but they did all that. It was really good. But when Bernie won the Conn Smythe in '74, he handed the keys to my dad to the car, and Bernie gave us the car, and there it was. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's certainly not one of those Mercedes or something that come out these days. So
I remember hearing that story, that he won the car and gave it to your dad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I saw your dad a few years ago, I was laughing. I was like, "Did you get it? Look at it first?" And you said, "Damn, I don't want it, Freddie. You could maybe use a car." That was one of those things. So that was obviously quite generous and overly generous. That was fantastic.
Well, yeah, they had such a good relationship, like you said. I mean, and you told me, which I didn't realize, you spent time down at our shore house in Wildwood when you were a kid.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I remember that. What was that? You had the small house there next to your big house, and but we were there 2 weeks. Honestly, my brother and myself, my mom and dad, and I. The only part I've been down to the shore at that point was more Ocean City, and that was it. But that was what a great time, and that, of course, your dad, the avid fisherman, and we went out. It was like O'Skilligan's Island. It was like a 3-day. It was like a 3-day cruise we went out for. And honest to God, I think I was, I don't know, 13 or I don't know what I was, but man, oh man, it was 60 miles out. And my dad was so sick, and middle of the night, and boats going everywhere. And your dad sticks. He said to me, he's like, "Ray-Jean, how is your dad not doing? He's sick as a dog." And he goes, "Okay, I'll be down in a minute." So he comes down, he sticks his head down there, and he said, "Freddie, are you okay?" And my dad goes, "Bernie, I'm not doing too good. Maybe we should go back." And Bernie goes, "Freddie, remember all those stops and starts you may be doing training camp?" Yeah. Well, screw you. There's no goddamn way we're going back. And he had to lump it. That was it. So Bernie was pretty confident in his position when you're playing 90% of the games, I guess. But that was amazing, and I remember a lot about it. And I think it was a little White House or something like that you had next to you, the big one there. So
yeah,
that was so there you go.
And apparently they didn't go fishing with less than like 2 cases on the boat back then. So can only imagine what kind of.
Oh yeah, and well, I bet. Well, there was a I mean, there might have been like 8, 9. Anyways, it was like a 3-day thing almost. And he had another captain with him, which introduced me to him. Like, I did not know anything about boating. So, hey, I remember your dad goes, in case I have a heart attack, I got another guy who can, drive the boat. And it was probably, like, as you just said, probably when they drink 24 beers, you need a backup captain, So, back in the day. That was something. But we caught a lot of tuna, and we caught one marlin, which your dad or whatever let me kind of relay this marlin. And all I remember for like 2 years, my arm was just, I think I'd lost all my nerve damage. It took like an hour to wheel that thing in. And I was like, can someone help me out here? Oh boy, that was rough. What a good time though, and pretty good memories, that's for sure.
Yeah, what a great age to be a part of that.
We didn't get an invite from the Favells. I didn't get an invite from the Favells though. I don't think so. So sorry, Corey.
I think the boat came with the cup, so maybe that was.
There you go. Yes, that's true. That's true. Wow.
It's funny that shore house is still there, the little white one, and it's all like big, huge houses all built around it now.
Really?
Everything was leveled, but that one little house is still standing there on the bay in Wildwood.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Really?
I love driving by.
Wow, maybe I can afford that little one.
A lot of fun.
Really? I'd have to get that address next time I'm down there to see exactly where that was.
Yeah.
I remember that the little house, not too much about the bigger one, but I remember the big boat, and that was what a great time.
Right on the water there, a lot of fun.
Yeah, so that was great. Jeez.
I love they brought a backup driver. In case
I mean,
I don't know if I would have wanted to be on
all
the
these
boat.
years later, these years later, I believe Bertie saying, "Yeah, hey kid, if I have a heart attack, this guy will drive the boat." Well, I didn't know until like now that it was probably because of the 24 beer, right? So have the backup driver.
Yeah, my mom said they would go out on the boat and she wouldn't see him for days, like just out in the ocean, beer and.
I mean, I don't know why you have to go out 60-some miles for 3 days, and I mean.
Oh, that's where you get the marlin out
the line
there.
off the dock. Oh, the marlin got the marlin out there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't really want to. I didn't think I had to reel it in for an hour or two. So, but that's the way it was. But what a great experience, though, and it was fun.
So, how old were you when you left Philly? You were around 16, you said?
I was 16. Yeah, 16. So my dad, after he was there 7 years. So I was 16 years old. I was at Camden Catholic, a freshman, sophomore year.
Okay. Yeah.
9th, 10th grade, whatever we called it back then, at Camden Catholic. And so after my 10th grade year, my dad obviously goes to the Rangers. And that's when, I was going to go into 11th grade, and I hated the Rangers so bad. Like I didn't want to live the arc. Like at 16, so it actually worked out great for me because I ended up a bunch of my friends that I knew that I played hockey with, little Flyers, they were going to New Hampshire to a prep school, which I knew nothing about prep school, but I knew one thing, it had to be better to go to school in the arc because I didn't want to do that. So I was 16, but I was so lucky though, just 9 to 16, and remember so much about everything, all the little stuff, and I was very fortunate that way and to be around it, and which was great. But yeah, at 7 years there to 16, I was 16 when we went to the Rangers, and that was a tough one.
Oh,
but
sure.
Anyway, then I hated the Flyers because of course whoever your dad's with, I guess that's your team, right?
Right.
So anyway, that was some fun years.
Yeah, I was so little when they won the cup. I was 2, so I was home with my grandmom for the parade. I wasn't even in the parade. Like my brothers were. They were on like the kids' bus or whatever. I was home.
Yeah, I was on the same bus.
So you were on the bus with Bernie and Chuck then.
Oh, absolutely. I wonder if they tell the same stories. I remember that. Obviously 2 million people, but 2 million people, but I'm telling you, that's when streaking was it, right? So I bet it was on. And that bus, I'll never forget it. Like, you're basically not even moving, obviously, and past City Hall and whatever. And we had this, this bus. It was one of the flat nose ones. And I'll never forget, I was sitting like 1 or 2 rows behind the bus driver. And we're at standstill, obviously. People are on top of the bus. It's crazy. And this one guy, like Spider-Man, jumps on the front of the windshield, basically, and he's butt naked, got nothing on. And in honor of the bus driver, everybody's like, "What the heck?" The bus driver seen this before because he just like, really, and he just threw his wipers on and just
There's a wipers on.
so they were the bus. Yeah, like it was flying off the windshield. I was like, Jesus, wow, this is nuts. And yeah, that was those parades. I'll tell you,
A lot different than they are now.
That was. Oh, it's crazy. And actually, it's funny because I think it was Joe Cadillac. We'll get back to him for a second. Just I remember, I don't know if you've seen that, Kim, but if I have it, I only saw it maybe a year ago. It might have been from '76 or '77. A picture of my dad, Bernie, and Muhammad Ali.
Oh yes, I have.
Have that picture.
We have that picture.
I didn't see that till like a year ago. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a great picture.
That was great. That's a great picture. And I just saw that, so that was pretty good.
And just the style, your dad
stuff,
was like so stylish with his suits and his like. It was just so cool.
I mean, it was. Honestly, you look back at that. I mean, he had the tinted sunglasses, Fu Manchu, and like I don't know. I mean, back in the day, I mean, all those clothes, as I say, came back in style. Because remember, it was Jack Lang. There was a place, you either get tasty cake if they scored a hat trick or whatever they did, or they got a gift certificate at Jack Lang Clothes, which I'm not sure that's still around. But that's I'm pretty sure Joe Cadillac got a lot of perks. I'm not sure Joe's like, yeah, well, a couple suits for me probably, and yeah, I'll take one of those cars. And the way he did it, but he always took care of the players, and he was the first phone call for everybody to make when they got in trouble on the road. So that was it.
Yeah.
That was fun times.
Well, we had a whole freezer. My mom actually bought a full stand-up freezer for all the tasty cakes.
I was just going to say that
we had so many tasty cakes.
Our neighbors in Cherry Hill, I guess, love us because they had a bunch of kids, and that's every day in their school lunches were tasty cakes. My dad, I guess, would just fill them up with tasty cakes, and they loved it. It's so funny that up tasty cakes.
That is like. That was, I mean, you go to the locker room, that old locker room in the Spectrum, and in the back, that was boxes of this stuff. And I'm saying to my dad, like, is anybody taking us home? Like, they're looking pretty good to me. Like, I guess guys would get it. Like, they was like, hey, whatever. But I don't think I had too much of the tasty cake, but when you did it, they were good.
Oh yeah,
really good.
Yeah,
I
love them.
That was They're still around, right?
Oh, yeah.
The old tasty cakes?
Yeah, they sure are.
Wow.
Well, we just gave them a good plug.
Yeah.
Good to say. And maybe, I don't think Jack Lang Clothes is around, though.
I don't think so.
Right?
No.
Oh, my head.
I
no,
doubt the
sure.
locker rooms in 2021 have tasty cakes or any kind of junk food sitting in them.
Yeah, that's what sucks about the game today. Let me tell you. Back in the day, when my dad was coaching, your dad.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
They use training camp to actually get back in shape. Like now they train all year round.
It's crazy. I remember you see some of those letters from Punch Imlach or whatever in 67, 68, the players for training camp for the Leafs, and you're expected to be able to do 20 sit-ups, 20 jumping jacks, and basically 25 knee bends. And we'll supply you with skates but not cigarettes. Come on to camp, and that was crazy. But back honestly, when my dad was coaching, your dad's, I mean, talk about the locker room now. Obviously, all it is everything's organic, but everything's free too for the players. You feed them day and night. But you had the tasty cake, and then back then there was 2 huge garbage cans. I think they were metal garbage cans with a green plastic bag. And after games, they would just load it up with cold beer, and after games, guys would do their interviews, drink beer, and take 3-4. Obviously, thankfully, I guess that's the way it is now. But they grab and throw it in their trench coat, 3 to 4, and they made it over the Walton and the bridge somehow, and made it to Rexy's for probably more, right? But that was that was back in the day, and they had the tasty cakes and the cold beer.
And cigarettes. They all smoked.
Listen, and cigarettes and cigarettes, and well, you got to work back then.
Yeah. Well, my dad said his best games were always on a hangover. So.
Holy Jesus! Oh man!
I remember my dad telling me after warm-ups, he said players would have 6 or 7 Cokes by then. Like, and that was just before the game. And the amount of sugar and, it's funny because today's day and age, the health and everything goes into it. Back then, he's like, yeah, I had 6 Cokes before the game even started.
Well, I mean, like Gary Dornhofer I remember reading something he had said that, long after his playing career was over, but, he played hurt all the time, Dorney. He was always bandaged up and getting injected. And he goes, but when a game day, he just said, I'd have 3 really high test cups of coffee in a row. And right before or after warm up, and then he goes, I go down that runway and 17,000 back then, 17,007 do the rest for me. And that's how he did it, right? Like, I mean, that's a lot of, I can't, I mean, the way it was back then. But those were, that's the way it was. It was great. And that's why the great stories. And I think from that too, I think it was 1975 or 76, the first Robin Herman, her name was, the first female reporter was allowed in the locker room in Montreal at the All-Star game. My dad let her in, so what the heck? And then she became the first regular to be in the locker room, so that kind of changed everything. So they got probably rid of the beer, the tasty cake. Yeah, Robin Herman, and her name was, and so she was the first, which was kind of cool. So that was even back in 75 or 76. That was really neat.
I was gonna say that back in the 70s, like that was probably a big deal. I'm sure.
Oh, that was. I mean, honestly, well, put it this way. She probably, got the same treatment of her picture as Corey got back in Buffalo. Those guys went down. Back then, and now, of course, obviously, women, which is fantastic. But everything's set up. Locker rooms are designed, obviously, because of, showers here, they have your changing area and, everybody's got, robes and all that stuff. But back then, it wasn't that way. There was no robes, and they were just, they were basically. And, but, that was, great coverage. And, you're getting bigger as a team, I guess, or more important if you got, I think she might have been with the New York Times, I believe, or something like that. So, New York Times covering the Flyers, reluctantly probably, but.
I love that.
That's awesome. Ray, I had a couple questions for you. You were a good hockey player. You put up some good numbers back in university, and you were actually drafted. What I just wanted to know, just because I played hockey, and there was I always wanted to be a goalie, and at 12 years old, I had a problem with my knee, so I had to become a forward. And what I just wanted to see what's kind of the background of you. You look like you put up some good numbers. You're drafted to the LA Kings. What how did you kind of get out of and figure, hey, GM coaching, that's sort of your avenue?
Well, it was I think it was kind of like you. I still remember living in Cherry Hill. I was 12 and I wanted to be a goalie too. And I was I had street hockey all the time, and my dad, he didn't put much thought into it, but when I kept bugging him, he kept telling me, Ray, the equipment's way too expensive. So can't afford it. I'm like, what? Like, are you getting goalie equipment? Okay, so I had to play forward. But no, I went to St. Lawrence University, upstate New York, and actually Mike Keenan, obviously the former Flyer coach, Mike went to St. Lawrence, and Jacques Martin, guys like that. And but I played at St. Lawrence, and I was drafted by LA after my sophomore year. But I didn't even play my sophomore year, but I came back and had 3 good years and was drafted. And I think it was when I got out of school, it would have been like 1985 or so, and going to training camp. And actually it was funny because Pat Quinn was the head coach of the LA Kings at the time, so that was funny. And but then after, so I had all my friends were working on Wall Street, and so I interviewed down there a bunch of places and had 1 or 2 job offers. Which I don't know why I didn't take it, but I ended up moving to Boston and I got in the player agent business for 6 years. And then when the Ottawa Senators got with Tampa Bay in 1992, came in the NHL expansion. It was the second year, actually. He was the president, GM Randy Sexton. I went to school at St. Lawrence and played hockey with him. And, I think I was 30 years old. He was the one that gave me my first opportunity in '93 as assistant GM in Ottawa. But that was my connection through St. Lawrence and, with Randy. But at the same time, it was one of those things that 6 years prior to the agent business and contracts and CBA, that was great. But that was a great move for me because nothing better than being with a team versus an agent business. So, but that's, certainly how from St. Lawrence to 6 years in the agent business. And then when I was 30 years old, 93, get into the NHL, which was fantastic. And, but that was a connection through St. Lawrence through hockey, and which, was nice. And we're still lifelong friends, which is great.
That's cool. That's awesome. I still to this day, like Kim and I used to always talk about, what's the question you get asked the most growing up? And everywhere I went and, was introduced, everybody asked me, oh, were you a goalie? And where did you play? So it's like, well, and my dad always says, should have been a goalie. So guess I should have been a goalie. But anyway, that was, I was just curious.
Did you want to be coach, Ray?
You're the goalie, man.
Speaking of that, like, did you want to be a coach like your dad?
What's that?
Did you ever want to be a coach like your dad?
I don't think so. I kind of helped my kids' teams when they were younger and stuff like that, but it never was a passion of mine for some reason. I don't know why. And the management thing was something, that evolved for me, but coaching, not really. And it's so funny because I remember, and now back when growing up, it used to be A House. Now it's USA Hockey, obviously. And, but now with USA Hockey, I would, because you have to level 1 to 5 being the highest, your coaching certificate. You have to have at least basically a 3 or something like that. So, I think when I was at Pittsburgh won the Cup in 2009 and in Detroit, and I'll never forget it after the game. It's kind of probably I'm lucky I didn't coach because Dan Bylsma was our coach then. Dan came in February and had an incredible run and 25 games and through the playoffs and then. So after, we're in the locker room, the Cup and all that stuff in Detroit after Game 7 for an hour, whatever it is, I just walked out of the locker room, went to the, behind the bench where the Penguin, the Joe Louis Arena, and the arena was empty. And I'm just behind the bench and was looking, I'm like, I just beat these guys to win the Cup. It was hard to believe. And then all of a sudden, Dan Bylsma, our head coach, walked out, and we looked at each other, holy cow, like, wow. And I said, Dan, let me ask you something. Like, I hired you a few months ago and never really did a formal interview. Like, do you have a level of coaching certificate from USA Hockey? And he goes, yeah, of course. You got 3. I'm like, Jesus, Christ, I got a 4, level 4 for God's sakes. What the heck? So I got a coach that wins a Cup. He's got a level 3, and I got a level 4 for doing nothing. I got like 2 drills in my repertoire, right? So no, I don't think coaching was going to be in my bag. I still have the same 2 drills, and I can't find my skates, so that's okay. No, that was So I don't think so, Kim. Never really occurred to me, and anyway, never got there.
But how great, you experienced your dad winning the Cup as a kid, and then you become GM and you get to experience it yourself. I'm sure it must have been surreal. Yeah.
That was, it was the same thing, Kim, where I got 2 boys at the time in 2009. It was 10, 12 or whatever it was, and they could remember that and experience that, and no different than myself. And they could go to the parade. And they, poor Kim was only 2, couldn't go to the parade. So, but it might have been the safest thing not going to that parade. So,
I don't know if I would have wanted to see that guy flying across the windshield.
Oh yeah, well, honest to God, that was hard to forget. I don't know if I was more impressed by the guy jumping up there like Spider-Man sticking the windshield, or more impressed with the calm demeanor of the bus driver had just
turning on
wiping the guy up. Yeah, like it's just like I don't think honestly the first time it's happened to that guy, he acted like it anyway. Because I remember the guy goes flying off, and all of us, like the bus above it, we're all like, holy cow. Like, that guy would fly. We got a badass bus driver, that's for sure.
Philly
no one
in the
else
70s,
jumped on our windshield, though. Philly in the 70s. No one else is jumping on our windshield. That was great. Oh, boy.
Do your boys play?
That was... Yeah, my two boys are 25 and 22, and then my son was at Boston College and played there, and then
Nice.
my other boy is at junior at Connecticut College, and he plays there. So they really got involved in it, and just like me, they were kind of rink rats, like to be around the rink, but no different than my mom and dad with me. Most important thing was education. That was with them, and so they both, at Boston College and now Connecticut, both great schools. But I'm very happy that they, played soccer, lacrosse, and hockey, and different things, and met a lot of different kids along the way. So they both done very well, but they did play, and it was kind of cool to see them grow up and do that.
I'm sure. And yeah, great schools, both of them. But yeah.
I don't know. And how old is Bernie now, and how old's Doug? Because Corey, I was when I texted with Kim earlier in the week or something like that. Dave Poyle, grew up in Philly when he was young, and because his dad was a GM of Flyers, Bud Poyle, and he sent David, and I worked for David. I was just a GM in Nashville for 8 years, and David's a good friend and my mentor basically. But I remember he was down in Florida where he has a place. I think it was about a year or two ago, and David out of the blue just sent me a picture and said, "Hey Ray, I bet you don't know who I'm with in this picture." And I looked at it and I got back. I said, "Well, David, I believe you're the one on the left, and that's Doug Favell on the right." And he's like, "You're good. You're good." I go, "Christ, you look great." I mean, it was like, I don't know. And it's so funny how that picture, Doug, and I was like, "Yep." Didn't take me long to recognize him.
It was funny because we were at I was at a dinner with my dad maybe 2 years ago, and PK Subban's dad, Carl Subban, was at our table, and I think David Poyle, there was a big connection. So I looked over, and Carl's taking a picture with my dad, and he was sending it to David to say, "Hey, here, I'm at a dinner with Doug Favell," and that was the connection through the Poyles. It was funny, so that might have been the picture.
Oh yeah, he's a very nice guy. I'm very impressed with PK's dad. He's a great guy. There we go.
Good time to fill up.
So we have a good picture now, right? A good time. We have a good picture. I'm not in it. Perfect.
Beauty.
There you go. Just don't go with the audio. That's the way to go. Wow. Hold on one second. So, Corey, where do you live now?
I'm in St. Catharines, Ontario. So I'm about 20 minutes from the border.
You're in St. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So that's
nice.
My dad retired in Colorado, so we stayed out in Colorado for about another 10 years, and then moved back to St. Catharines, Ontario. So that's where we've been since.
Where in Colorado? Where in Colorado?
I played minor hockey at Denver University, the Junior Pioneers.
Wow.
And we lived about 45 minutes up in the mountains. So it was
wow.
Yeah. And man, I give my mom and dad credit because I played hockey, and the home rink was 45 minutes away all the way down in Denver. So it was it was neat. But that's what I always talk with Kim about. She grew up in Philly, cup winning, her dad and everything. It's like, well, I was on a mountain in Colorado. Nobody even knew what hockey was. And everybody played football and soccer. And that's when I moved back to Canada. I'd never played lacrosse. And people were like, "Wow, you don't play lacrosse?" I'm like, "Well, at 15, it's kind of tough to start. Everyone's way ahead." So, I never really – I didn't get to play lacrosse. And like I said, I veered off from being the goalie. So
that's not so bad. But I remember, so when your dad was in Colorado, what was he? A couple of years? I can't remember. How long did he play for Colorado?
3 years.
3 years. I can't remember if it was first or second. You remember? I think it was 77, maybe the playoffs, like when they played Philly. Colorado played Philly. Yeah. And remember the old best of three? It was a best of three, right? And honest to God, it was back then. It was like 1 versus 16, right? There were 16 teams, so I think the Flyers might have been first overall. So they played, the last seeded team, or 16 to the 21 to the playoffs, and that's pretty good. Only 5 teams missed, but it was a best of three. I think the first game was in Philadelphia, Doug, he stood on his head. Went to overtime.
I think, yeah.
Philly must have shot Colorado like 6-18, and it went to overtime. And you lose a game, you're going to Colorado for game 2, and you lose what you're out. It's a best of 3. So they Flyers won in overtime, and then they go to Colorado for the second game. They barely beat them the second game. Your dad's in his head. I'm like, this is gonna be good if like they lose to the 16 seed team, but the best of 3, I think it happened. Like, I mean, it was amazing. Your dad played incredible, and that was it. And that was. But I still remember when I was growing up in Philadelphia, playing for the little Flyers, and I had a really great coach, and his name was Bud Prowell. But Bud was his son Mark and I were tight, and Bud was one of the goal judges for the Flyers forever, and since day one. And I still remember. I think it was 71, 72. Weren't many people at the game that game or something in Philly. I remember I snuck down for section C, and I was sitting behind because Doug Favell was down the one end, and Bud, my coach, was a goal judge, and I was trying to get his attention, but he's looking at me like, "What are you like?" He's got to keep his. I'm like, "Hey," and I still remember. I never get it. He wouldn't wave to me. I'm like, I guess I said he had a good game yesterday, I guess, but he would look at me, and I still remember like, this is no fun. And I'll never forget, they're playing Chicago. It might have been 71, 72, and they had Dennis Hall and Bobby Hall. They both could shoot the puck like 100 miles an hour. Yeah. And Bobby or Dennis comes down the wing and just blew one by your dad, Corey. And I remember after the game said that your dad said, like, geez, you did that. Like, to me, I was like 9 or 10 years old. I'm like, I think he was in the net. Like, he saw him wind up, and he said afterward, he goes, yeah, I wasn't letting that thing hit me. That's for goddamn sure. So I went back to section C, 21. So that was it. Bud Prowell wouldn't wave to me, and your dad got the hell out of the way of a Dennis Hall slap shot, which is why he's still alive, I guess. Yeah. So crazy. Yeah.
That was a big fail nuts. All around.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was, well, actually, you can look at it that way, but maybe if he's doesn't get hit, that's actually a good thing. Live to fight another day.
So do you have a favorite or one that really stands out in memory of Doug or my dad? A certain moment?
Well, I mean, Doug was there my dad's first year, so I was 9, 10 years old, but of course, I mean, well, with Doug, I mean, his personality. Number one, every goalie back then just would stand up, and you see the goal they get scored on in the 70s. Basically, they're just standing there. But Doug, I remember that was so cool. I'm like, this guy's got an orange mask, and I remember saying to Jim McKenzie, I mean, because I would get in the locker room and your dad, I would ask him, like, I always call everybody Mister, like, hey, Mr. Favell, like, can I try your mask on? Yeah, sure, kid, whatever. I mean, go ahead. And I was so into it. And then I think it was an extra, but it had the Starburst one. I was so into that. And I remember saying to Jim McKenzie, I was like, hey, Mr. McKenzie, like, can you paint some of my equipment like orange like that? And so the next day I show up, and Jim McKenzie, what a wonderful guy. I must have bugged the heck out of him. And he goes, Ray Shero, I got your stuff. I'm like, I'm thinking he painted my helmet orange or gave me a mask, or I don't know. Well, next thing you know, I looked like I was going to play for the California Golden Seals. I remember they had the white skates. Well, he painted my skates black and orange. They're orange. I'm 9 or 10 years old. I'm playing at Radnor Rink, right? Remember Radnor Rink, that little thing? And I'm 9 or 10. I mean, obviously I've already been told that, Shero, you're an old man if Favell blew it. Now I'm wearing orange skates. I was going to probably get mocked again. It was horrible. But Jimmy took care of me, and he thought, hey, that's what I wanted because your dad had the orange mask, and probably the first one, obviously, with the colored mask. And then, of course, Bernie got the 2 Flyer things there, but the Starburst, whatever. And it's hard to believe those 2 guys, honestly, played so connected. Through their careers and stuff. Because their styles could have been more different. Like Bernie was a stand-up guy, and certainly like your dad have obviously had success doing it. Doug Favell was basically playing with snowshoes in there because he was all over the place, like Tony Osito, but he was flamboyant. Like he was, it was tough. And I mean, I don't know how they did it back then with the equipment they wore. And you see after the game, some of the, drinking beer in the stall after the game or something, and you see their equipment, like you wouldn't put your kids in net these days with that playing high school. Like it looked horrible. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was, but then with Bernie, obviously Bernie was just, that was probably 5 years with it. And obviously, it wasn't so much all the, those are the easy things. Like, Bernie was always so great to me. And what's really great though, like, when my father was inducted in the NHL, the Hall of Fame in 2013, and the whole, Flyer team was up, and I've seen Bernie quite a bit, and it's, and that's what I think is so great. And, anyway, it's just all those things that the memories more than anything. And with Bernie, and I don't know, it's just, I follow him on Twitter and all that stuff, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't tweet all that stuff out himself. And,
You're right.
but everything, like it's like that's the way to do it. But with both, I mean, it was just fantastic, and you have those things because you have the same equipment manager, the same coach. They had cakes, all those things growing up. And for me, growing up 7 years like that, I was around the locker room all the time, and they always treated me fantastic. And and I remember, as I was saying, like sometime your dad would give me, Bernie would give me a ride home from practice and drop me off, and my buddies are playing street hockey in my driveway, and they're like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "Oh, that's Bernie Perron." No, seriously, who is it? That's Bernie. I go, Mr. Perron. Oh, yeah, yeah, right. I don't think your dad made me wear a seatbelt though. That's for sure back then.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was. I don't know. It's you remember those things, and I remember we had a dog first dog we ever had. Bobby Clark gave it this white Samoyed, and I don't know. My dad named it actually. I don't have no idea how it came, but Cherry Bell, like Cherry. I have no idea. My mom was like Sherry Bell, like Sherry Bell. And of course, my dad was like, nah, Cherry for Cherry Hill and Bell for Liberty Bell.
Aw,
okay,
that's cute.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what the true story was, but those are the things. And but again, I mean, growing up like that, and even as we were talking about 2 weeks down in Wildwood, and with your family, and again, hey, where were you guys for 2 weeks? I missed like 5 little league baseball games, and I'm like, down the shore. Where you at? Bernie Brown's house. Yeah, but where were you? Okay.
No, seriously.
Bernie Brown's house. Seriously, that's a little white one. Little white.
Yeah.
White house. And, White House? No. They put the White House. That was something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny though how just hearing you talk, how we all back then, everyone was Mr. and Mrs. Like it was never, oh, Bobby, it was Mr. Clark, or it was just how it was back then. It's just so different now.
Not Kim, not for everybody. Not for everybody.
No.
I still remember. It's funny you say that. No, it's funny you say that. I still remember. Because I mean, after games, waiting for my mom would be in the director's room, and with Mr. Snyder and the Keith Allen and Joyce and all that, and we'd be outside waiting and playing like hockey, like with our feet on whatever, and it was Jay Snyder, Jay and I can't remember his Craig, his brother, and like Lindy, they'd all were on the floor rolling around, the kick save and all that stuff, and the players were walking by after the game, and we're just sitting there, and it was like, oh, you had that connection, and with Mr. Snyder down there, but I'd be in the locker room like after games, or I just been in my dad's office, a little tiny office, and I'd walk out to get a coat like that, and the press is in there, and the players after a game, and Mr. Snyder's in there. Jay is, if I'm 11 or 12, he's got to be 13 or 14 or whatever. I'll never forget. Jay's like the owner, the son of the owner. Hey, Bobby, how you doing? Bertie, what's going on? Hey, can I have a stick? I'm like, he called everybody their first name, but I guess that was the way it was. And the owner's son, and it's funny you said that, Kim, because I was always the same, like Mr. McKenzie, Mr. Lonsberry, Mr. Punt, Mr. Favell, can you please, then thank you. That was it. And then I don't know. I don't know. Sugar's supposed to go get you further than spice, but I try to be nice. And next thing you know, Jay's like, hey, whatever. And he's walking out with his sticks and gloves and
That's funny.
jersey. And
Jay's great.
He was
He's
great.
a
That was
great
fun,
guy.
though. Jay's awesome. Yeah. I caught up with him at Mr. Snyder's funeral, and it was really good to catch up with him. But that was looking back at that, and so, not surprisingly, he becomes president of the team later on. So
Right. Hey,
that's got to be tough.
He's 13.
That's gotta be tough. Yeah. I think that'd be a tough one. I think when Bob Clark was fired by the Flyers as GM, that'd be I think Jay was the president. That'd be a tough thing to do. Maybe that's what he called him. Hey, Mr. Clark, come into my office.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I mean, that's a tough one, but
Yeah.
that's really amazing, though. It really is. But yeah, that's the way it was back then, and that's probably the nice way to do it.
Yeah.
I remember
Not that Jay's Ray was wrong. Trust me.
Ray, I remember my dad tells a story when his last year when he was with the Firebirds, Glenn Sather was out in Edmonton, and my dad was ready to retire, and he said, "Hey, for $40,000, I'll give you $40,000. Come out, be the third goalie." And
what are you paying the first goalie? Jeez.
yeah, let's say there was Ron Lowe and Eddie Mio, but like I said, he was going to camp, and Ace Bailey picked him up at the airport in Edmonton, and little blonde guy with him got out of the car and said, "Hey, Mr. Favell, you can have the front seat." Well, it was Wayne Gretzky, and he says he just called me Mr. Favell. He said, "Hey, Ace, I think it's time for me to retire." so there you go. Wayne Gretzky was called Mr.
Great.
Favell, and that so that was great. So my dad ended up retiring. I think he joked. He said, "Well, I'm still on my 6-year deal with Colorado, so maybe they'll pay me to sit in the mountains." So he came back and he ended up retiring. But it was neat. Wayne Gretzky was calling him Mr. Favell.
Mr. Favell. Holy cripe, that's funny. Yeah. Well, there you go. And that's Wayne Gretzky. He even said Mr. Huh?
Yeah. Well, I'm like,
that's
wow,
pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
No.
All right.
Well, do you have anything else there, Cor?
Bernie, where's he living now?
What's that?
What's that?
What's that? Oh, I said, where's everybody living now? Where's everybody living?
I'm right outside of Cherry Hill still. Where are you?
Okay, and St. Catharines and Boston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Boston.
Have you been there?
Boston is kind of home.
All right.
Yeah. When I got out of college, I lived in Boston for 6 years, and then always whatever to be, kids going to both my kids went to prep school in New Hampshire, and then one to Boston College. But so I think it was 2015 or so. When we sold our house in Pittsburgh, I went to New Jersey. We always would have that home base, and it was Boston. So we've been in Boston full time for like 6 years, something like that. So it's a fantastic city.
Great city. So are your boys, are they Bruins fans or Pittsburgh? Where? How does that work?
No, I think, I'm not sure what my young Kyle, who's at Connecticut, I'm not sure what Kyle's actually, he's a junior, but he's actually doing a little stuff for Columbus Blue Jackets, an internship during the season, which is kind of cool.
Nice. It is.
And then Chris, my son was at Boston College. He's been out for 2 or 3 years now. He lives in Boston, but he's scouting. He's an amateur scout for New Jersey, which is awesome. And it's probably better when I got gas there. It's probably better off than him there than without me. But I didn't know we hired him. It was Tom Fitzgerald and Paul Castro and Dan McKinnon hired him. I didn't even know they hired him. And next thing you know, but I'm happy.
Oh, that's
he's
awesome.
really passionate about doing a good job. But he's living in Boston, and so I would have to say he better be a fan of the Devils. I guess to be working for him. And Kyle whoever last one, Kyle is smart enough that's his favorite team. So that's it. But which is so cool that, all the stuff that they can all look back and, like we can see. I can look back and see your dad's play goal or some of the old films besides being there. But they know the whole history of the Flyers and how that impacted my life and my family's life. And they love that. And they love the fact that, when we won in 09 in Pittsburgh and then you finally get the cup and the first thing they did was to look for their grandpa's name. And then they found mine and they thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But they're like us growing up. You have some great memories, and fortunately, a lot of those good things they went around, and they never had a chance to meet my father, who passed away. My mom passed away in 2010, but they got to know my mom very, very well, but all the great things about the Flyers is going to live on forever, and they know that our dads had a lot to do with that, but we're very lucky to be part of it as well. So. So they're part Flyer fans at some point, that's for sure. Especially with Chuck Fletcher's now the GM. Chuck's been a good friend of ours and a good friend of our kids, and so I'm sure they're rooting for him.
I love that. Now they're in the hockey world too. It's just how the generation and even my other business, Biscuit Tees. Didn't you got a couple of T-shirts when you were up in New Jersey, but. And that's kind of a hockey theme thing, and then doing this. So it's kind of fun to just stay in the hockey world.
I think that's fantastic. That's you guys will, all your connections, you'll have plenty of opportunity for guests. That's for sure. Both you guys have those connections and stories, and everybody loves to share them. That's for sure. And growing up around those times, so Jack Lang, tasty cake, and cold beer to the garbage can after games. That's good. That's nice.
Well, it's fun to hear different. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no! And number 4. I forget number 4, Kim.
What's up? TV froze there for a second. The TV. That's old school.
Oh, I said number 4 was you said the crush I had your mom or something like that. That's number 4. Oh my God, that is a small world. Holy cow!
I just have one last thing for you, Ray. You've had a great success with your career. What's in store for the future? You still got lots left in you, or just going to relax for a little while?
Well, I think I do, but at the same time, I mean, I was assistant GM in the NHL for 13 years and a GM for 13 years, and I was really fortunate, and I was always passionate about it. I never worked a day as an assistant GM. To be a GM, never did. That happened, I guess. We'll see what happens down the line, but I'm fortunate I still have time left in my contract with Jersey, and and I remember my dad used to always say, as a coach, maybe that was why after 7 years or whatever, it's more of even back then, everybody needs like a sabbatical or something like that, and I don't disagree with it. Like, that's pretty much, if my dad were alive, I tell him, like, yeah, I agree with this sabbatical thing, but now they called it getting fired. But everybody needs a sabbatical. But I'll tell you one thing, it's a lot better if you're still getting paid. I'll tell you that. So I'm passionate. I'm passionate. Yeah, for sure. But I'm passionate about the game, and even because if you're not officially with a team, it's awesome because, talking to the different managers around that, they have a lot more information that they obviously won't share, and you're not with a team, but you have that connection with guys still. But I'm passionate about the game. We'll see what happens. It's a good, especially with where the pandemic is and what's going on the last year. It's probably time-wise a good time for this to happen. So we'll see what happens. But it's been great so far since I was a kid till went through management, and leads me to have this conversation with you guys, which is our connection, which is fun.
Yeah, once you have that in your blood, it's kind of hard to just, just growing up the way that you did and we did, it's just it's part of who you are.
Well, exactly, and and when I started getting dropped off by just somebody, my neighbors were really disappointed. That wasn't Bernie? No? Okay. So that wasn't it. So that was That was but that was the way it was back then. It wasn't okay. Just took that as it was normal, and thank you very much, Mr. Perrott. I'm thinking you're gonna swing by and pick me up in the game too. Okay, I don't know. Basically, it's my Uber driver.
Right.
So who knows?
Well, it's funny.
awesome.
One
Yeah.
time we were driving home from church, and this car keeps coming up and tailgating us and going to the side and tailgating and cutting us off. And it was Pelly. And his
Oh, really?
And he followed us, home into the driveway. And same thing. The neighbor was like, "Who is that?" It was Pelly. No, same thing. Like
That's
Lindbergh.
funny.
I'm like, yeah, no, he's just. But
Your dad was probably trying to shake
what's that?
him. That's funny.
Yeah.
You're trying to shake him. Who knows? Oh, that's funny. Nice connection.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh,
Man.
good stuff.
Well, before we go, I have to tell you, your mom was just so unbelievably wonderful woman. Like, just such a great person. My
That's
mom
awesome.
loved her
Wow.
dearly, and just such a great
man.
person.
That is so nice to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Great family.
appreciate that. She was amazing. I really appreciate that. And thank you. That's here. Wow. Man.
Well, I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
we got to
Well, I
have
appreciate
you
it,
on
you guys.
because-
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I don't
No,
remember
thank
you
you.
growing up, so
Yes,
it was fun
same here.
to meet you and get to talk to you and
Yeah,
hear
for
different
sure. That's
stories
awesome.
that never heard before. So it was fun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's good. You started with the hard-hitting first question, Kim. That was
Yeah.
Right
wasn't
off the
even a
bat.
question, a statement.
Right,
Wait,
Gabe.
okay, it wasn't expected. That wasn't expected, that one. But I told the truth.
Hey, she was a beauty,
Oh,
so
that's funny.
it is what it is.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There you go. There you go. Well, I've been accused of worse things than that, that's for sure. That's
Yeah.
that's funny. Well, you say hello, and I appreciate that. And
I will.
Corey, nice to meet you as well. And please say hello to everybody. And thanks again. And keep in touch. And if you're feeling, let me know. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Great stuff.
Yeah. Thanks so much,
Thank
Ray.
Thank you so
guys.
much, Ray.
Thank you, guys.
All
I
right.
really
All right.
appreciate it. Bye, guys. See you,
Okay.
Corey.
Take
See you,
care.
Kim.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. Bye.